All right. Hello, everybody. It is live on KEXP, and I'm your host, Troy Neilson, from listener-powered independent 90.3 FM KEXP in Seattle and 92.7 in San Francisco. And we are streaming 24/7 at KEXP.org and our free mobile apps. And these live performances are made possible by people like you. So thank you for supporting KEXP. Well, I am very excited because we have some legends in this room. We're actually playing a game today. How many musicians can we fit in the KEXP live room? And so I am very excited to bring to all of you Squirrel Nut Zippers. And if you're ready, take it away.
Teeth get extruded and bones get drowned and baked in the case which gets passed around. Make the bars. People, listen attentively. About the future calamity. I used to think the idea was obsolete. Till I had the old man stamping his feet. I sing it in the afterlife. You could be headed for a serious strife. Now you make the scene out there, but tomorrow they'll be out the day. Make the bar. Talent, fame, money, refinement, job, skill, and brave. And all the things that you try to hide will be revealed on the other side. Afterlife, could be headed for a serious strife. Now you make the yes, there was the zippers. And the A and the M and the N and the A and the T and the I-O-N. Use your face, lose your name, then get 50 for some duck. Lose your face, lose your name, then get 50 for some duck. Let's go.
Fantastic. You are listening to Squirrel Nut Zippers live on KEXP.
Oh my God. Thank you, friends. We'd like to do one going way back yonder, back to the old time Zippers days with a song about a drug dealer. This song is called The Bad Businessman. keep that business underground. He's a player. Every time he deals around, it's just a bad hand. Oh, what a bad man. Singing beware what he sells. Shoot you straight to hell. Ain't nobody gonna wish him well. Yes, it was a zipper. Thank you, friends. Thank you, loved ones. It's the good old Squirrel Nut Zippers band, and we're going to drop one in your back seat right here. I'm going to introduce a new singer to the microphone, the one and only, the incomparable Cella Blue. Oh, Cella! Take it away, boys.
Oh, here I am. Here we go. Oh, yeah.
Take y'all to New Orleans.
Oh, sit back and enjoy the sounds of the city while we wait.
kind of creepy feeling stealing over me. That's the place where everything's so fascinating. It's great for dancing, yes, and romancing. That's the place where you and me should go. We will love a stealing an evening at Lafitte. Yeah.
Fantastic. Squirrel Nut Zippers, spreading joy around the world still here in 2024. Thank you all so much for taking the time to do this.
Ripple joy.
Yes, it's wonderful to have all of you. Jimbo, Cella, Leslie, Martin, Dave, Ettie, Neilson, John, Meredith, Schaefer. We are so lucky to have Squirrel Nut Zippers here in the KEXP live room today. We'll wait for Jimbo to get to the microphone for some
for having
questions.
us.
Yes.
Yes, you rang.
Well, hello, Jimbo. It's been
It's a little known fact the Munsters and Adam's Family, big influences on the band.
I bet.
You rang.
You rang. It's been a heck of a journey, hasn't it? This whole Squirrel Nut Zippers journey.
Over 30 years now, I've been corralling this kind of music around, kind of brainstorming and just making it happen. Over 30 years. It's hard to imagine when we first started out.
Yeah.
Actually had no concept of what we were doing other than just excited about early weird American music, you know, and how to be a part of that. And
Yeah.
Now we are a part of it.
Yeah, you are
Pretty
absolutely
fantastic.
a part of it.
We used to be fake nostalgia. Now we're real nostalgia.
And now, isn't that interesting?
Help me, somebody.
Well, Jimbo, let's go all the way back to the beginnings of this long musical journey that you've been on. And in your teens, you worked jobs like being a deckhand on the barges while simultaneously getting more and more into music. And did it all start with a band called The End? And then shortly after recording a 7-inch record with Johnny Vomit and the Dry Heaves? What can you tell us about all that?
Well, those days are a blur. You know, my shop teacher in high school, I went to a very rural area, very small town, very antiquated. I mean, I grew up there in the 70s, 80s. It could have been the 40s and 50s, the way the culture was. I still had the same high school teachers that my dad had, and, you know, and
So nothing had changed there. It was Lone Ranger on TV in the afternoon. It was basically like growing up in the 50s.
Right.
So music was a big part of that, you know. And then, of course, you know, me being a rebel and outsider, had to start a punk rock band there in rural Mississippi. My shop teacher thought we had something. Boy, was he wrong. He took us to Memphis, and, you know, he opened up the Yellow Pages in Memphis. There were no recording studios there. I never even had the concept of a recording studio. He just looked at recording studio in Memphis, which is the big city, and there's, you know, Sam Phillips Recording Service. That's the first one in the book, and they'll record, you know, any shop teacher band from Corinth for so much an hour, and ended up I was in one of the most historic buildings in recorded music history. Sam Phillips from Sun Records.
Wow.
So we went in there as teenagers and cut records, and you know, I got started early. You know, I won a battle of the bands, and we got a little record deal. Like I started getting record deals when I was still in my teens, somehow in rural Mississippi.
Wow.
And so, you know, I always had that on my mind on the barges. I was trying to learn how to write, to process everything, and just delve deeper into the blues and roots music. Being on the barges, I got exposed to New Orleans brass band music. Their street music was I felt a kinship to it because it was just the people's music, just like I had grown up with in North Mississippi, but it had horns and brass and a different beat, and so I just started taking it all in, and it took me several years to process all that.
Yeah.
And but then you know, I moved to Chapel Hill, and it just things started coming together. I started pushing this vision, learning, being a part of this early weird American scene that I just was so fascinated by. And so the early Bessie Smith records and all the jazz, classic jazz and blues, just I had to figure out how to learn how to play it.
Yeah.
And then I started grabbing people and pulling them in the orchestra, and that's what I'm doing 30 years plus on.
Amazing. Speaking of, yes, living in Mississippi and being next door to Louisiana, and that New Orleans sound, it's just something that has still reverberated all these years. Do you remember a moment when that just kind of resonated with you, when it just kind of struck you and you're like, that's the sound?
The sound I have now, or just the entire inspiration of New Orleans?
Yeah.
Just on shore leave, you know, one weekend I stumbled into some place in Treme, and this would be in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, and it was you know, it was who are our boys from the brass band? Dirty Dozen. It was the Dirty Dozen. They were young men then. I think Charmaine Neville was singing with some Pat Club, and that's like, okay, so that's when New Orleans music really hit me, impacted me. And then I started seeking out little clubs, but it's just everywhere down there. In those days, and still today, it holds true. So you'll see a lot of the men and women in the orchestra here are living in New Orleans because the music is so alive.
Right.
But it was that night with the Dirty Dozen where I first saw the street band just being performed in the community, and just party on the street. That's where I got it.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
one of the components of the Zippers, I'd say.
Yeah, so you start the Squirrel Nut Zippers around, well, the early-ish 90s, 93, and all of a sudden, here you are doing this type of music, and then all of a sudden, other bands started kind of popping up that had somewhat of an adjacent sound or some like old-time swing music. Did you know that was happening, or were you just in your own frame doing your own thing, and then all of a sudden people were saying Squirrel Nut Zippers are part of a swing, you know, revival in the 90s?
We were working as total impoverished artists in complete isolation.
Right.
That's all I could tell you.
But then all of a sudden people are like, you're part of this movement. You're like,
the first time we went to L.A., I had my guitar in a paper sack. And we pull up in the taxi cabs, and we go to the Brown Derby. You know, we're going to the Brown Derby, a famous club that's closed now. And there's just a line around the block of people in all these decked-out 40s and 50s costumes. I'm like, this looks really cool. Who are they here to see? You know,
It's you.
They're here to see you, the taxi cab drivers. Like, everybody in town knows you're coming. It was a real eye-opener. Why it happened, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, I think radio helped push it and explode a lot of bands. I guess a lot of bands were working on the similar program, although we were way stranger than anything else in that category.
Yeah, I definitely, you got lumped into this swing revival thing, but I always thought Squirrel Nut Zippers was its own thing and is its own thing.
It really is.
And, we have to, of course, talk about the release of the album Hot in 1996. All of a sudden, Squirrel Nut Zippers have a platinum-selling album. You have this crossover single that's being played on over 24 pop radio stations and is in heavy rotation on MTV. I remember very well the video for Hell, and it just reminds me of
it galvanized
being in
all
high
the
school.
real weirdos out in their teens, And I think I'm proud of that. you
Yeah,
know?
and I was one of them. I was in high school watching that video, and it stood out from all the other videos.
course
And
it
I was a
did.
total grunge kid. I was, Nirvana, and I loved all of that stuff. But then that just stood out, but yet it felt like it fit too. And it was really, it's hard for me to describe, but it fit in with all the wackiness that was going on in the 90s, but it was so well crafted and so well put together. It's very authentic to the history of that music, but yet also with these overtones of these other genres. I just want to know, after MTV's playing this video over and over and the Squirrel Nut Zippers are all of a sudden a part of everyday conversation, what changed for you, besides the obvious, but what all of a sudden changed for you and what you noticed? Was it just a chaos?
Nothing really has ever changed for me. I just have an attitude, I got into music for a certain reason, certain goals I wanted to achieve, and a certain calling that I had, and so when all the crazy celebrities started, the crowds got bigger, of course, and to me, that was just great. I mean, that's what you want as an entertainer, right? Is to entertain more and more people. I just started practicing my mandolin all the time, I just focused my energy on staying free from it all, I guess you could say.
Nice.
And just trying to stay on the path. So it really didn't change me in any way.
Yeah. That's great to hear. Yeah. Sometimes it gets to people's heads, and
and I'm still the same now.
And I
think the band will tell you, I just got that same drive, energy, excitement, and just get so thrilled from hearing the band.
Yeah.
And new people come, people go, and it just still has that lightning in a bottle feel.
Yeah.
When we get together, even in a room like this with no audience except all the incredible staff that you have here. That's all we need. That's all we need.
The Zippers have stood the test of time, and people are still finding out about the Zippers. I mean, the song Hell has nearly 10 million streams on Spotify. People just keep finding out about it. And I wanted to know this, also speaking of the album Hot, and I just wanted to ask this personally because I read this somewhere. I was like, really? Was the album Hot recorded with one microphone? Is that true?
Certain songs on it were.
Yeah.
But, we've always adhered to the older recording techniques too. Certain songs were recorded with one microphone, but all things real primitive or more antique style. So
yeah, which is staying true to...
Yeah, to the music. Yeah, the music, as it were. But like you said earlier, I think we're our own genre. I really don't think there's any one thing you could point to and say that that's our that's our bag. It's just it's our own music. It's our own way of presenting it on stage, and we've held true to that cool. When people see our shows, even if they've never maybe just found out about some of our recordings or something. If you come to our concert, you're going to get a thrill. I mean, you're going to really enjoy it. All the musicians I have are incredible entertainers in their own right.
Yeah.
And so we try to do it and just keep the focus on the collective, the group, push everybody to the front. And, same for our audience. We just encourage them to just cut loose and have a ball and be themselves.
Yeah.
It's like the kid watching the Hell video in 1996,
Yeah.
and just start jumping up and down the bed and slam dancing, you know.
Yep. It did. It really brought me joy, and it still does. And that's what I love about this band is when you play live, the audience is there having such a great time. And it pulls them out of whatever troubles they've got going on or the darkness of the world. And then there's this light for the duration of your shows.
Yeah, and there's a lot of darkness in our music. One of my main goals is always be to present dark stories in a very happy, positive way.
Yes.
So that's a very black humor, satire thing, you know. I think that we inhabit, you know. So there's room for people who have kind of twisted minds, you know, to really, like I say, all are welcome.
Yes.
You know.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you so much for all the years of fantastic music and continuing to spread joy throughout. We appreciate it. Well, once again, you've been listening to the legendary Squirrel Nut Zippers here on KEXP.